no good. Rebounded by Anthony. 2 seconds left. Anthony for the win. Got it. Blows it. Cole Anthony gives the Magic a victory.
Close Up Magic.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Close Up Magic. I'm your host, Stephen Cameron, and as always, he's back. Malik is back. He's here. What's going on, Malik? How you doing, sir? Good to have you.
It's good to be back. Last week was a little crazy. You guys held it down with Patrick.
I missed you last week,
with the fastball. That was awesome.
Patrick. Yes, he came in, saved the day. But we missed you. We missed you.
Definitely. I missed you guys. I definitely, caught a listen and stuff, but I definitely
you get your work done. You didn't get fired.
I did. I did get my work done. My boss was out of town, trying to hold down a little extra work and everything like that. So it's good stuff.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, dude, let's just get into it. We got a really exciting episode today. Today is FIBA Day. We're going to talk all about Franz and what's supposed to be Mo Wagner, but it's just Franz Wagner playing. And so, anyways, we have a great guest, Adam Papageorgiou, who really pays a lot of attention to FIBA and also covers the Magic with his Penny and Pop podcast. He'll be joining us here shortly. But before we get to that, we're going to cover some housekeeping and then get to our tweet of the week here shortly. First and foremost, we are brought to you by 19 Media Group. They're doing great things, man. And we really appreciate them. There's some big things coming from us later this week, but they're just such a solid partner for us. And they have all sorts of good podcasts on their network. They have entertainment, sports, music, so much stuff, lifestyle. So definitely go check out all the different podcasts they have on that platform. Malik, we got featured on Good Pods podcast this past week, which was really dope. We were the number one staff suggested podcast for the week, which was sick. I loved that. That was just a really cool shout out. For all you listeners, if you're looking for a good podcast platform, check out Good Pods podcast. It's a really good platform. Very user friendly, kind of community driven.
Yeah, it's a little more social media based, kind of getting you interest what other people are listening to and all. So it's pretty cool and all. Yeah, I've been enjoying partaking.
I bet, man. It's been fun. I'm using it too. To be honest, I still use like Apple Podcasts for some stuff. I use Good Pods for some other. I haven't fully transitioned over there yet. It's been good. It's a good platform so far. A big announcement, which is cool. I know some of you have been asking for it. We have some merchandise coming going to be available in September. T-shirts, hats, mugs, all sorts of random stuff. You'll be able to order. Shop's still getting set up. But we've seen some previews of what the stuff is going to look like. It's great. Again, 19 Media Group is helping us navigate all this. But there's going to be a wide range of stuff. If you want a kitchen apron with our logo on it, you can have it. It's all going to be available to you. So anyways, September will be cool. If you want to get some merchandise, you're more than welcome to. That'll be really fun. And last and most importantly, if you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that subscribe. I'm pointing to the subscribe, not the button, but the graphic that I'm posting, but hit the subscribe button down here. That's going to be really helpful for us. Leave a review if you're listening to on a platform. And if you could share it with a friend, that'd be great.
Well, it's funny when you mentioned some of you have been asking for. I thought you were talking about me. Like I've been asking for it, and you're gonna, virtually reach across the country and give me a right hook or something like that. But I understand what you were saying.
You just order it. Yeah, It's great. Yeah, not you, but like some of our listeners.
Yeah, some of those guys have been asking for it. That's for sure.
Definitely. Malik, anything else before we get to tweet of the week?
Let's get into it, man.
Let's get into it. You go first.
Well, my tweet of the week is from John Hollinger. And a lot of people have seen this meme going around where what the origin is there's an Argentinian woman who's speaking very close to her boyfriend, kind of telling something, explaining. Look online, it's kind of explaining woman. And what it is a reference to Paolo in the crossover. And the woman is saying, people think it rains all the time in Seattle, but it's actually really dry in summer with very low humidity, but an unusually humid day for August. And there were lots of people in a small gym. And that was why the court got wet spots and they had to cancel the game. and it's just reference to the farce, the kind of craziness that happened on Saturday with the it's kind of a crazily attended crossover game where Paolo, LeBron, Jason Tatum,
Aaron
Isaiah
Gordon,
Thomas, I mean, all kinds of guys were
Murray.
out there somehow in a tiny high school gym where they had to put police tape on the baseline to keep people from overflowing. It got too hot in there. People were slipping and sliding. Guys were afraid of getting hurt, so they called the game in the second quarter.
I heard it didn't have air conditioning.
Yeah, I mean, with Seattle, so I mean, they're one of those places that
you don't need it all the time.
You think you don't need it, but when it's hella hot, you do need it. And so it was a real kind of it was kind of a nice way to spend Saturday night. If you didn't have anything going on, I was just folding clothes and just watching the silliness go on and watching Jason Tatum hit a bunch of threes and stuff like that. But anyway, it's reference to that, just how silly that was watching that on Saturday night. So,
if it wasn't for that, we would have had some highlights to talk about with Paolo Banchero, but they canceled it in the second quarter. So it's all good.
And now we're almost to September. We made it through almost.
Almost. We're getting close. We're getting close. September is going to be a great month. I'm excited. My tweet of the week is short and sweet. Markelle Fultz tweeted fourth seed. Fourth seed. I'm psyched.
I mean,
that's all I got to say. If he believes it, I believe it. I don't think I believe it, but I want to believe it. But Markelle believes it. So fourth seed seems very.
A lot of things would have to happen, go right, go wrong for other people and stuff. But hey, man,
he's got more
eternal,
and he's got more insight on the team than I do. So if he thinks I can be the fourth seed, what's weird though is why even project something like that.
Good vibes.
Yeah, but also now you're putting pressure on your team.
Pressure.
I don't know. I don't know.
Like diamonds?
I'm psyched on the tweet. Obviously, I picked it for tweet of the week, but I don't know. Does everyone appreciate it as much as I do? Maybe. I know Magic fans do. But Markelle Fultz, I hope you're listening. If you are, come on the show. But if not, I like your tweet, dude. Tweet of the week goes to Markelle.
Because he's the guy who could actually be a big part of that. If it happens, he's going to have a great season. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Let's get to the meat and gravy of the meat and potatoes, not the meat and gravy, the biscuits, gravy, meat and potatoes of this podcast. And let's get Adam Papageorgiou on up here. Listeners, stay tuned. We're getting right to it. All right, everyone. Like we said in the intro, we got Adam Papageorgiou from the Penny and Pop podcast joining us tonight. Adam, how you doing tonight? Thanks for joining.
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So the main reason we're having you on, this is a special episode, and we want to talk about FIBA. FIBA basketball, international basketball. It's always big in the summertime. It's no different this summer. And this summer we actually have some Magic basketball players. And granted, we've had basketball players in past play for FIBA, Evan with France and Vooch and stuff like that. But this year we have Franz, and we're supposed to have Mo Wagner, but he's no longer on the team through an injury. But we have Franz Wagner representing Germany. In general, what does this really mean for Franz and a player to play for FIBA basketball in the summer?
So Franz in the past has played for Germany in like a youth capacity, but this is by far kind of a big deal. This is his first senior national tournament for Germany. And the fact that he's playing in a big tournament like Eurobasket in his backyard of Germany, it's a really big thing. I mean, you probably saw, when Moritz had to go out with the ankle, like he was he had like some long quotes about how much it really would have meant to him to play in it, because it's literally would have been in his backyard. And it's kind of a similar thing. I mean, the way it basically, and I'd say when you rank FIBA basketball, when you rank international basketball, it's like the Olympics usually gets viewed as up at the top, just because one, it's the hardest thing to get into, that tournament. And then, I mean, obviously it's global as well with the Olympics. Second, it's the World Cup, or what used to be the World Championships. I think 2010 was the last time they called it the World Championships, but that's also global. Eurobasket, it's Europe. It's it obviously Canada, US, Asian countries can't participate in Eurobasket. So the fun thing with Eurobasket is that I personally think it's actually the most entertaining tournament because one, there's always a lot of NBA talent. I mean, the vast majority of NBA talent comes from Europe for, if you look at the percentages of international guys. And now that you have over 35 NBA guys in this tournament, including the latest 2 MVPs in Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, like that level kind of goes up. So for Franz, this is kind of a special opportunity because he's kind of, whether Dennis Schroeder admits it or not, Franz is is their best player, is Germany's best player. So when you're in a situation where you're the kind of the go-to guy, or ideally you should be the go-to guy, I mean, automatically you're going to try and, you're going to have to improve one way or another to elevate your team, or else you're just not going to progress in the tournament. So for Franz, the way we looked at him with the Magic last season is we were always like begging for him to get more touches, more shots, be more selfish. And now with Germany, because of either injuries or certain guys didn't show up for the German national team, like he has to do that or else his country's going to fail. So as much as as much as he's going to want to defer to some of his more kind of senior teammates, as much as he wants to just cut or just pass or maybe stay in the corner a little bit just to kind of spread the floor, like he's going to have to be a driving offensive force. And that's going to be fascinating to see.
Well, and so far watching him, he hasn't seemed to have any problem kind of stepping into that role. Like he seemed to be like, oh yeah, I belong here. I'm on the world stage, almost to the point of like Schroeder is the one like, wait, you're the best player? Like he almost seemed a little surprised by it. Have you noticed that dynamic a little bit so far? Or?
Yeah. So with Schroeder, I mean, he's 28 now. And so he's been playing for Germany since like 2015. And he just became the captain. The previous captain that they had for like over a dozen years just retired, or didn't retire, just got cut from the team. So Schroeder is the captain, but with Schroeder, he looks kind of rusty in some of these games early on, at least in the warmups and stuff. And now he's got an ankle injury himself. Like we don't know, no one knows if he's going to be ready for these 2 World Cup qualifying games coming up, or for Eurobasket to start September 1st itself. But I mean, you could kind of see in the first game when Franz scored like 26 against Belgium, where Schroeder wasn't actually really giving him the ball much. Yeah. To then, in this Super Cup, friendly tournament that you just had over the weekend, like Schroeder was giving him the ball or trying to give him the ball. Okay. And so I think I think he's figuring it out one way or another, whether it's just naturally like, oh, this kid's really good, or if it's the coaching staff that's saying, get Franz the ball.
Nice. Okay.
Before we get to more focus just on Franz or other aspects of this summer for him, can you tell me a little bit more about the structure of FIBA and how this summer is actually going to play out? Because it sounds like, I know these last couple of games have been more exhibition friendlies between different countries. They don't really mean anything yet. When do the games start to mean something, and what does the structure look like for this whole experience?
It's complicated because it's just recently changed over the last decade. So like there was people that were like, and also the pandemic played a factor. Like they're playing, So, I mean, when we say FIBA, I mean, you got to think of it, FIBA is the international, World International Basketball organization, kind of like how FIFA is the world organization for soccer. So, but with FIBA ball, let's try and break this down the best. So as far as with the games mattering, they start mattering this week. They play Sweden on Thursday, and then they play, and that's in Stockholm. And then on Sunday, they host Slovenia. So Luka Doncic and Goran Dragic are going to, in Slovenia, are going to head to Germany and play them in what are called the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. So next year is the 2023 FIBA World Cup. It's going to be in the Philippines, Indonesia, Japan. Paolo Banchero has already promised that he's going to play for Italy.
Oh, he has. Okay, nice.
Yeah, he's promised to be doing now. he could always change his mind or whatever, but
That's exciting.
he's already committed and promised himself to play for Italy next year. So, whether that changes or not, that promise is out there. But so these two games are for, a separate tournament. Basically, these teams and teams all around the world are playing FIBA World Cup qualifiers this week. Like even the US is playing World Cup qualifiers, even though, they're probably playing like their F team of talent in those qualifiers. But, Asian teams, African teams, all of the Americas teams are, and of course Europe are playing in these qualifiers over the next week, basically. And I think they're all of them playing 2 games, but
isn't Mo Bamba in Africa right now? Is he over there to play?
No, he's with the Ivory Coast, I think, for family stuff, based off what I saw with Instagram. So, which is really cool, because I don't know if he's been over there before, or if it's been a really long time since he's been over there. But that's awesome.
I know his trainer's with him too, so he's still getting the work in, which is
really? Man.
Okay.
Yeah, Henry Wu traveled with him. Yeah,
got to get that work in. No, you're good, man. You guys can cut in, because I can explain it as much as I can. But really, you almost would have, especially if you're like a visual learner, like if you just kind of Google image search, like how each of these FIBA tournaments works out, like you can see how like qualifying is broken down, and then like the actual tournaments themselves go. But basically, for any type of international qualifying, and we don't realize this because NBA guys are playing during the NBA season, but like there's qualifying for tournaments going on in November and February when NBA guys can't become available because they're playing for their teams, their NBA teams. So basically with this FIBA World Cup qualifying, there's qualifying games now, November, and then one last stage in February before, those teams that actually qualify for this tournament, in next summer in the Philippines, Indonesia, and Japan. So Germany, they're in group J of their European qualifying group. They're in first place in their qualifying group.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure how much danger they were in. Gotcha.
They are, 6 games out of a dozen, basically, or 6 games. Yeah, they're 6 games through. Germany's 5-1. They've got Finland, Slovenia, Israel, Sweden, and Estonia in this group that they're playing in. So they're playing again Sweden Thursday, Slovenia Sunday. And basically, if Germany wins both their games, like they're probably going to be automatically qualified to get into that tournament next year.
Gotcha.
Even if they just split them, like they need to beat Sweden. Sweden's not good. Slovenia is going to be a challenge because it's Luka, it's Slovenia, but basically with that, it's Germany just needs to show up for that Sweden game.
And then the following week is the main event for Eurobasket championships.
Yeah, that's the European Championship.
Nice. Okay.
So the last Eurobasket that happened was actually in 2017 was the last one, because of 2 things. They changed it where Eurobasket's no longer every 2 years, it's every 4 years. And then the pandemic delayed everything a year. So, So even like, higher. Luka was like a baby when Slovenia won it. Goran Dragic was in his prime when Slovenia won Eurobasket. Now we're in 2022 and stuff's flipped, but Slovenia are the defending Eurobasket champions. And that tournament, it's just under 3 weeks of just a lot of games. You play, you play everyone in your group. There's 4 groups, 6 teams in each group. So you're playing 5 games in a matter of like 8 or 9 days, basically.
Who is what significant names will Franz be playing against in his grouping?
So that's a very good question. So Germany's in Group B of Eurobasket. They come out of the gate against France. So our old friend Evan Fournier going up against him. Rudy Gobert. France has the most active NBA players on their roster. I think it's either 4 or 5, depending on injuries. But and then obviously they've got Slovenia also in their group. So they're facing Slovenia, this upcoming Sunday, the August 28th, and then I think a little over a week later, I think it's like September 6th, I think around there, they play them again in group play. So they're going to see a lot of Luka. So obviously Slovenia's got, Luka Doncic, Goran Dragic. And then probably, I don't know if Yusuf Nurkic is playing for Bosnia Herzegovina, but they're also in the group. But the other big team in their group is Lithuania, who's got both Jonas Valanciunas and Domantas Sabonis. So there's a lot of NBA. I mean,
of course.
Yeah.
That's a very, very rough. Oh, and Iggy Brasdeikis is on that team. Yeah. But
Iggy,
who I think he's the third option. So he's going to have to put some points up if Lithuania wants to go far. So,
he
but
can get a bucket from time to time.
No, he'll do good. He'll do good.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that he could have done was actually join a really good Lithuanian team in Europe when, since he couldn't come back to the Magic or whatnot. That's going to suit him well. But and then the only other team that's in their group is Hungary, and Hungary's not that great. And yeah, Group B is a very difficult group. Top 4 teams move on to the round of 16 knockout stage. Right now, I think I've got Germany finishing 4th in that group because I think France, Slovenia, and Lithuania are all better than them right now. But that's the magic of you being a host. Germany gets to host all their group stage games. They host all of the knockout stage games, whether they progress in them or not. And so, Eurobasket and most of these FIBA tournaments in general, like if you're a home hosting nation, you typically get an extra boost from these home crowds.
That's sweet. That's awesome.
Well, and what you
Sorry,
said
Lee.
about them maybe finishing 4th, I mean, it's like a big part of that is the kind of depletion of their front line. Mo Wagner kind of tragically, right before the tournament, has an ankle injury, a little bit of mystery about it, but it was obviously severe enough for them to rule him out immediately for the rest of the summer. And then now Daniel Tice dealing with a little thing where maybe they're holding out, maybe they're just resting him, but maybe there's something else going on. How would Mo Wagner have helped this team? Because obviously, last year with Germany, he was doing some great things for them. Like, how much does this hurt their chances and what we might have seen in terms of his progression?
I mean, it's huge because, look, Mo Wagner last summer dragged Germany to the Tokyo Olympics. Now, they didn't do as great in the Tokyo Olympics because, they were going up against better teams, and then they were focusing in on Mo to where, he wasn't as efficient. I think he, in the Olympic qualifiers last summer, I think he averaged like 14 points per game, which that's good. 40-minute FIBA game, that's good. I think he averaged like 11 in Tokyo, but he was their leading scorer basically, and they were missing. They've got more talent now than they did even last year. So for Mo to literally drag that team to Tokyo was really freaking impressive. It really was. And I think that experience led to him having a pretty solid, efficient Magic season last season.
Yeah.
Because this time last year, I don't think anybody thought Mo would be, maybe on the team now, because people were thinking, he'll stick around another year because he's Franz's brother or whatever. But
he played his way into this second year for sure.
And and so for Mo not to be on, not to be available, and it's just awful timing. He literally rolled his ankle in like the last practice before that first friendly they played. So, the fact that the Magic didn't come out with like a press release about Mo's injury makes me think it's not that bad. Like I know, and he's, Mo's still traveling with the German team. Like he's still in the huddles and stuff. He's standing. I think he was wearing a boot in the Belgium friendly. I don't know if he's still wearing a boot or not. When I'm trying to watch these games, I'm actually looking to see if he's wearing a boot, but I think it's one of those where, he could probably play through it in like 2 weeks, but they just don't want to risk it. And I'm sure he'll be fine by Magic training camp. Like if it was any worse than that, he would have probably flown back to Orlando and there would have probably been some type of team press release, but
Magic probably shut him down too, to an extent. They probably said, "Oh, you rolled your ankle. You can't," because ultimately the Magic have to give the approval for these players to go play in these tournaments and these games.
And then there's like complicated like insurance stuff with that, which I don't even know the whole in-depth stuff with that. Sometimes it's literally, it's very dependent on like per tournament and then FIBA, and then there's just a whole bunch of different things, but
lawyers get involved.
But with Mo not being on the team and the fact that Daniel Tice it may or may not play in Eurobasket now, and then Isaiah Hardenstein, who I think he played for Germany like 5 years ago, but he hasn't played for them since. Like they really could have used Hardenstein for this tournament. Like,
they're low on free agent. That was awful timing for them, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been situations where guys who go into free agency or don't even have a team, like they'll still play for their national team, but that that gets more complicated because if you get hurt, then you might be in trouble with that.
Yeah, that changes your life.
But with Tice being out, with no Hardenstein, like Germany's got like a very undersized front court and just not a very good front court. And they're going up against some beefy teams. I mean, you look at France just with, Rudy Gobert, and then you got Lithuania with Valanciunas and Sabonis. Like there's some beef that they're not going to be able to handle. So that's a huge, I mean, just for his size alone, Mo Wagner is basically a 7-footer, and the man knows how to handle himself, as we've seen, especially when he's setting screens and whatnot. But just not being there, it's a big blow. Like I actually think he could have had a shot to make the semifinal or go for a medal if Mo was healthy. But without him, it's tough, man. It's really tough.
Yeah. Well, and I think what is exciting now is that everything goes to Franz. Like everything's a funnel to him. Like if they're going to win, it's going to be because he's having, just magical nights where everything's going in. He's going to the basket and fouling guys out, that kind of stuff. Now, not predicting that, but that's the path for them to moving on. We've seen that in years past. You've seen Oscar Schmidt back in the day, or just kind of guys just carrying teams for a game or so here. So that's the hope as a Magic fan, but also for Germany to have that the Magic in that little wispy goatee kind of goes a little farther in Germany,
Franz has the Dirk goatee going right now. Actually, I've seen some old national team photos of Dirk from like the mid 2000s, and if you compare the goatees with him and Franz, they're actually kind of similar in a funny way. But no, Oscar Schmidt's a heck of a name because I mean, with Brazil, he would put up like 40, 50 point games, but with Franz, honestly, he's gonna almost have to put up Dirk Nowitzki Germany numbers. And if you look at Dirk's FIBA tournament numbers, like he was consistently like a 23 to like 27 point per game score. And again, we're talking about 40-minute FIBA games where some of the games are blowouts, and Dirk probably, and sometimes you're not playing that much, because you're crushing other teams. But I mean, Franz has 2 20+ point games so far in these friendlies.
It seemed effortless in some ways.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. He went up against a really tough Serbia team in his most recent friendly, and he had a rough go of it. He only had 5 points. There was shots that he made against the Czech Republic that just would not drop for him against Serbia. But then the other thing is just teams are going to try and get the ball out of his hands, because especially when there's no Dennis Schroeder on the floor, when there's no Daniel Tice there, like if he's the only NBA guy on the floor, it's going to be a challenge for him to get points or to get touches, or because teams are double and triple teaming him whenever he even thinks about going into the paint.
Question. I'm excited to see how he plays through that adversity of not having, some of the help that he should have. And, hopefully, Dennis Schroeder can come back and be a little bit of a help there for him to at least have someone else that can handle the ball, and maybe pull some defenders away from him here and there. But I want to transition just for a second here, still about the overall thing, but Paolo is not playing for Italy this summer. How did you feel when we found out that information? Were you glad, a little bit disappointed? I have mixed feelings about it. Part of me is thinking like, it would have been cool to I think it's always cool when someone represents their country, but at the same point I can kind of see all right, this is his first summer kind of going into the league. There's a lot of change, moving to a new city and just all sorts of stuff, or, hey, I got a bunch of pro-ams to play in. I don't know. So I kind of get why he's not. I doubt the team shut him down for this. I don't know. What what's your thoughts on Paolo not playing for Italy, Adam?
So, I mean, I could see Malik laughing because he's seen my tweets and stuff, and I know you have too. So, and obviously, you know, I'm explaining this during a podcast. Not everybody follows me on Twitter, but for probably smart reasons. But I wasn't a fan of Paolo not playing for Italy. I get it. You know, you're the number one pick. There is a big adjustment period going from college to NBA draft combine stuff to the actual draft to you're the number one pick. But when you see him at these pro-ams and you're seeing him go up against guys that aren't professional athletes, or he's in a situation where he's playing in a super humid gym that's slippery in Seattle where he didn't get hurt, but Chet Holmgren got hurt. You know,
Scary.
You know, as cool as it is that, I mean, and it's a lot of these are for charity. I get that. And, you know, he's clearly, you know, it seems like he's going back and forth between like Washington and New York getting his work in, which that's cool and fine. If you've got plans on playing for Italy next year, when you're in, you know, Asia, I don't see why you can, you know, I could see it as a much bigger benefit for him to actually play for Italy when all of their Eurobasket group stage games are in Italy. And not everybody on that Italian national team speaks Italian. Nico Mannion's on that team, and that guy can get, you know, that guy showed against Serbia that he's a danger from deep.
He's fully healthy, right? I know we had the issues a year or so ago, but Nico Mannion's doing well, health-wise.
I mean, if that's not him healthy, I'd like to see what he's like healthy. But I mean,
awesome.
he looks great. But
I'm glad to hear that. Cool.
Yeah, okay. He looks really good. But I mean, that's the thing is, the way I see it too, it's like a marketing opportunity as well, because kind of like how Franz, you're going to see over the next few weeks, like Franz's popularity internationally is going to explode when they see this kid dropping 20 plus points per game. Paolo Banchero can legitimately be like the Giannis Antetokounmpo of Italy. Like, and he would have had the chance to go up against Yanni in Eurobasket. I mean, there's some good teams in that Italy group, you know, including Greece and Croatia as well. But I mean, it comes down to me playing much more, you know, if you can play meaningful basketball in amazing atmospheres, I don't see why you shouldn't do it, you know, especially when you're still going to go play like these practice games or pro-am games or whatnot. And, you know, I get it. Maybe that it's obviously more kind of laid back and like you can still kind of focus on doing your preparation work and whatnot. Whereas, you know, if you're in a tournament setting, like for the next month, you know, you're doing a lot of practices for your national team. But I just see that as him being exposed to just different things, to just different talents, different strategies, different ideas. And again, he's gonna, you know, as long as Italy qualifies for the World Cup next year, you know, he's going to be playing for them next year in the World Cup. And it would have been really cool because this is kind of, you know, who knows when Italy's going to host anything from an international tournament perspective as well. Like, yeah. I just think it's really cool. And he could have indoctrinated himself in that Italian culture in front of, you know, all those Italian fans that would probably love him the second he stepped on a basketball floor. So that's my viewpoint, but I get, Steven, I get the other viewpoint. I really do. But I mean, you're talking to a guy that's pro international ball. Like
yeah. I think had it not been his like drafted year, he probably would be there. You know, I don't know. And who knows, maybe this was the Magic saying no. I don't think it was. I doubt he even asked, but there always is that chance because all these programs have to be approved by the Magic too, which is interesting. So
yeah, well,
Magic. I was gonna say. I mean, the Magic. I mean, even with the Hennigan era, but with this Hammond and Weltman era, like they, as far as I know, like if the guys want to play internationally, they let them play internationally. Yeah. Like
they haven't really said no to a lot of things from
like Mark Cuban, like discouragement stuff.
Like they haven't pulled like an Oklahoma City thing where they told like Pogashevsky not to play, or I know Miami told Nikola Jovic no. That was publicly known, but as far as I know with the Magic, like they haven't really done that. So
you don't really tell hoopers no. They're gonna go play either way. You might as well especially in a controlled environment like
Yeah.
this, where they have a professional staff with them and stuff like that, and training centers, you know, not NBA level training centers, but, you know, dedicated locations. So it's yeah, I think it would have been cool, and hopefully he does play next year. I think that'll be fun and a great opportunity.
And honestly, if I had a magic wand and I could have made it where he was able to play, I mean, everything you said just makes me smile, because
totally.
it's such a great opportunity. Could have gotten your feet wet. For me, having him shut down basically from April to July, where as you said, he didn't play any 5-on-5 and hadn't played with the Italian team, I think that was a kind of an obstacle. But if you could have somehow washed that away and have it happen, it would have been glorious, I think. So and I'm looking forward to it happening in the future. I think, like as you say, the international acclaim and the fame, of which we've already seen a little bit. Just Paolo right now is kind of the Q rating of the Magic has shot up since we drafted him. I think it's only going to go up even more as he gets with the Italian national team. And I was really glad to hear what you said about that promise. Hopefully we can hold him to that. I think that's going to be pretty exciting to see in the future.
Adam, question for you. As we start to wrap up this conversation, I just want to transition a little bit to this upcoming season. When we drafted Paolo, is that who you wanted? Were you psyched on that draft pick? For those that might not have heard your podcast, reacting to those to our, you know, draft situation?
Yeah, I was very happy. I mean, I had Jabari Smith Jr. 1A and I had Paolo Banchero 1B. Like that's where I was for like basically the final 2 weeks going into the draft. I had Chet Holmgren much lower on my list.
We were similar.
You know, I don't know if you were as low as I was. Like I had him as like my sixth,
like 7.
I had him as like 7th, I think, on my list. So that's how low I was on.
He was
Chet.
Still 3 on my board with Jaden Ivey very close to him.
Yeah, I had Ivy 3rd, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, Ivey's going to be awesome.
I was very happy either way. You know, with Jabari Smith Jr., like the tiebreaker with me was just, you kept hearing this thing about how like he had the best work ethic in the draft.
Yeah.
There wasn't like physical concerns necessarily. Like, you know, there's still kind of that sweat thing in the back of your head when it comes to Paolo. But you know, when you know, it maybe it should have just been obvious to begin with when you looked at what Paolo did in the NCAA tournament, what he does when he's going up against big competition, like when he crushed Chet Holmgren in their one meeting, basically back in December against Gonzaga. Like the kid shows up when it matters. And, you know, I'm happy with Paolo. I was very happy at the time during the draft. You know, as long as Jabari or Paolo, I was good. But, you know, since then it seems to be looking great right now. But, you know, obviously it's going to take 2-3 years to really play out to know who is correct. But it's tough not to be happy with what we've seen from Paolo so far.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm very excited. He, you know, 6'10", 6'11", whatever his actual size is, you know, handles.
I think he's 7 foot. He might be 7 foot, depending on the shoe.
Dude,
I mean, he's
depending on the shoe, he might be 7 foot.
You know, maybe he makes his signature shoe with Jordan Brand in a couple of years, you know, to make sure he's definitely 7 foot. But yeah, I'm excited. You know, I agree. It's you know, he was number 1 on my board from the beginning, but you know, there was definitely some you know, I flip-flopped on Chet and Jabari here and there, but ultimately none of them ever surpassed Paolo, which for me was, you know, I felt good. Rarely do I like the guy we actually draft. You know, like from like that, as in that's my guy from day one, and like, oh hey, that's we drafted him, so I was psyched on that. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm curious, Adam. I know for me, for whatever reason, maybe it's the Pollyanna in me, I'm very kind of calm and zen about this upcoming season. I'm looking forward to see what they've created kind of percolate and let the chips fall where they may, that kind of thing. I know some people aren't quite as calm about it. They kind of feel like there needs to be a move made. There's something that has to be done. If this goes on, it's not going to work. I kind of felt more of that vibe listening to you and Pops. I mean, and you know, where are you at in terms of how you feel about, like, are you just good with where they are right now? You're like, man, there's some missed opportunities. They should have done this, or they need to do this. Where do you stand right now going into the season?
Oh man. So yeah, look, if they go with what they got going to the regular season, which is it kind of looking like that, although technically have like 22 guys on the roster going into
Yeah.
training camp. So
A little
something's
blood's
going
coming.
on.
Yeah.
Something's up. So either that or some people need to check with their sources on signings. I don't know. But yeah, I'm a guy that says go get Donovan Mitchell. I've offered the trade package out there where it's 3 first-round picks and a pick swap. 2 of those picks being that 2023 Bulls pick and that 2025 Denver pick, and then I'm including Jonathan Isaac, Jalen Suggs, and Terrence Ross. And I think we'd have to take like Rudy Gay back for money purposes or whatever. But yeah, that's how I view it. I think Donovan Mitchell is the best player at the best age range that's available now, 4 months from now, 11 months from now. Like that's the best talent that's available. And, I've seen recently the whole Jordan Poole thing. Like, I just think Mitchell has so many reps as the go-to guy where every night that he's on the court in the NBA, he has to deal with being treated defensively as the number 1 scoring option. And Jordan Poole, as awesome as that rise has been for him, hasn't had to come nearly close to that type of attention. In one way or another, the Magic are going to have to consolidate assets because we're getting to a point now where these rookie scale contracts are coming to an end and you got to start paying dudes either way. And we can't pull a Golden State where, we have like infinite money coming in from the Chase Center and we're okay carrying like a $300 million payroll. Like I just don't see the DeVos family being okay with that or capable of that at this point. Maybe they would prove me wrong in that situation, but I just, and I always tell people when it comes to, my feelings with Mitchell is like, okay, if you don't want Donovan Mitchell, who do you think the Magic can get either via trade between now and in July, or do you think we can get next summer in free agency? And I haven't heard a lot of convincing cases. I guess the most convincing one might be Jordan Poole, but I don't think he's near the level Donovan Mitchell is. And I know people have come out with some advanced numbers, towards me as far as like, oh, well, he doesn't really move the ball around, or like he likes playing, stopping the ball. They play in such a slow paced offense. My thing is, Mitch, that a lot of that was because Utah was an older team, and then Rudy Gobert just kind of slows everything down. If you put Mitchell in what ideally is kind of what Mosley wants, is a fairly quick offense that's very quick with passing, very quick with pick and roll type stuff, dribble handoffs galore that are just quick and rapid. I think Mitchell could even be, he could do even better than what he's done scoring wise. Like he could get over 30 points per game in a season.
With the Magic not making that move as it looks right now, unless they pull what they did on draft and all of a sudden we're in it when no one expected it to be. Yeah. With that not being the case, how else are you feeling?
I'm nervous that the door is still open for another tanking season. And I just think from a culture perspective, from a fan base perspective, like we can't have like another sub 25 win season again. I just think you're harming yourself both when you're trying to bring in free agents or when you're trying to make a big trade for a star person. This season needs to be about just trying to win as many games as you can. So, when I say I think Gary Harris should start at the 2 over Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony, that's because I think Gary Harris, you and I are on the same page with that, Stephen. But I mean, I just think Gary Harris is the more balanced player on both ends of the floor. Now, if we get into preseason and training camp and, Suggs is shooting like 35% from 3-point range, then that opens the door because, as we've heard with Jeff Weltman, loving, guys that are in the top 90 percentile or whatnot and things like Jalen Suggs is a top 90 percentile defender. So, So, I mean, I'm nervous for a couple things, that in particular is like, if we pick up, say, like an injury or two, like that, like the doors open again for another tanking season. I don't think we can do that. So that's why I would like to do like a grand trade like Mitchell, just because if you've got the opportunity and the assets to do it now, why wait 12 months when you've got, especially when you got a guy that's under the age of 27 years old, that you can get. But the other thing is I'm curious to see what this coaching staff's going to do, because last season people forget, like that first month, like we lost a lot of games due to either just inexperienced coaching decisions or just flat out coaching mistakes. Like we lost
Mosley
a lot
was
of games.
not looking like a good coach at the start of the season.
And, to his credit, he got better as the season progressed. Like it's, you'd be lying to say that he
grew
didn't.
together.
No, he definitely has shown improvement.
Now it's tough too, when there's kind of a sub, a kind of a secret tanking agenda almost towards the end of the season. You try to keep it a secret anyway, but I'm curious to see how they get out of the gate. Like and especially with a fairly road heavy kind of challenging start to the season, like, are they going to come out of the gate and start punching people in the face like Scott Skiles' team did? Where out of nowhere, they looked like they were going to be a playoff team, and hopefully don't peter out like they did once they did the London trip, from January on.
We're not allowed to play in Europe anymore during the season.
We're not doing that this year. So there's not even preseason games. Like you'd be surprised how many NBA teams are playing preseason games overseas. Like the Magic aren't going anywhere. So that might be to their advantage.
We did our time a few years ago when we went to Mexico
and Brazil and stuff like
Brazil,
that. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Adam, I have to say that, hearing Kept Up a Little Too Late, Papageorgiou, talking about the possibilities of Donovan Mitchell, so reasonable. It does bring me around a lot more. The way you bring it up in terms of, hey, this many swaps, this many picks, what are you going to get in terms of free agency? It definitely feels a lot more palatable, the way you bring it up and everything like that. To me, I kind of think more just having that flexibility is the option. But in terms of a tangible goal, it's hard to argue against, Donovan Mitchell in terms of that kind of a move and everything like that. I don't share your pessimism in terms of outright tanking, but I do think that it definitely is a possibility where if the team does fall out of the play-in range, that they could kind of dip down into that kind of 30s rate, that kind of thing. But
look, if we're in the last few weeks of the season and we know the Magic aren't making the plan, then fine, like whatever, you do what you got to do. But until like it's officially the Magic are out of the play-in, like I don't want to see us tanking. Like I don't want to see that. The goal should be the play-in, get in the play-in tournament. That should be the goal. Whether we get there or not, we're gonna see, because the East is very competitive, and I'm worried that I'm going to see Donovan Mitchell on another Southeast Division team other than the Magic. That gets interesting real quick. And even on the Knicks, if he's on the Knicks, I don't care what else is going on with them. Like if you have Brunson and Donovan Mitchell, like you're not a bad team. You might not be a top 5 team.
You're gonna get a lot of eyes too.
You're going to be good.
You're going to be good. And so that's the other thing. And you got a couple big stars now that you're waiting on to see, like, are they going to move? Like you got Kevin Durant, you've got Mitchell, like there's stuff that's still kind of holding things back on like what we can really expect, because we could talk about playing and stuff, but if a couple big trades happen, a couple things shift here and there, like the Magic might at best be looking at like 11th seed. Cause there's a lot of shifting going on right now. So, but that's why I try not to make any season predictions till like we're basically like a week out from the season starting, because I want to see how this team looks in training camp and preseason.
Sure.
Well, for me, the biggest reason why I don't want the Magic to get back down to tanking, and we'll kind of wrap up on this a little bit, is that I don't want you and your podcast to kind of vanish again, because there were some dark times when the Magic were losing on purpose and losing with ineptitude, that I thought the Penny and Pops podcast was not going to come back. But now that there are players that are exciting, young guys, there's a direction, you guys are regularly back. And I really enjoy what you guys bring. I have so much Pollyanna optimism, that kind of thing. But to hear your kind of measured, kind of like, hey, ease back a little bit, let's see how things go. I really come to value what you guys bring. I listen to you guys every time. So I definitely want to keep that up and have a direction for the team, because I think that's what keeps you guys on the air.
Yeah. Thanks, Malik. No, I mean, look, I'll go quickly through this, but basically like Penny and I have been podcasting, on and off since summer of 2009. And, we had different variations of shows, when I was blogging, and then when I was with Magic Basketball Online from like 2012 through, for 4 or 5 years, in 2016, I brought the Penny and Pops podcast back. And then, I did that for a few years, and I just, I couldn't, after so many years of not making the playoffs and so much dumpster fire stuff that I had to watch as a media guy, like it just got to me. And then, I basically went away for, we went away for 2.5 years because I was getting my MBA. That's basically what it came down to at that point. Right. So I was doing my full-time career job. And then at night I'd go to UCF and finish my MBA, and complete my MBA. But, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been, I'm 34 years old. I'm born and raised in Orlando. Like, I've been watching this team since, I remember watching this team since '94, basically. Like I've seen a lot of great games. I've seen a lot of bad games. Like in the past decade, we went from a top, went from being top 10 in NBA win percentage to bottom 10 in NBA winning percentage as a franchise. So, wow. The past decade has been rough. It really has. And, I'm a very optimistic person, believe it or not. It doesn't always come out, but I'm a very, very optimistic person. Dang, but, I
blame the Magic then, man.
I do have hope with this team. Like there's a lot of stuff can turn really good really quickly, and it could happen this season even. But we'll see. We gotta let it play out.
We share similar views on quite a few things, and one of them is Donovan's available. Let's go. I'm in the camp too of he's available. Not every this type of player who fits the team and timeline and on this contract is available. Let's go get him because, like you said, what's next? I like Poole as an option, but that's if Donovan is not available. And
I think it's a Nick,
right? Frankly, that's the thing, right? So I don't know. Long story short, I guess really what I'm trying to say is Adam, I like hearing your show as well. I like hearing your views because often there's times when Malik and I are completely way off, and then I feel validated, like, oh, cool, I'm not the only one that thinks this is crazy. And
Gary Harris gang, man. Gary Harris gang.
Yes, we brought it from the start. So, So, anyways, well, Adam, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on our show, even with our behind the scenes mix up today. So, thank you for joining us.
When do you go over there, Adam? When do you go overseas? I know you're going over to watch stuff.
So are we talking about the Eurobasket stuff?
Yeah. Aren't you going over, or is that?
I am going. Or? So back in March, I booked.
Oh yeah, you have this like Grail trip coming up.
I am going to be at the Eurobasket semifinals. So
yes.
So that's going to be in Berlin. I don't know which teams are going to be in the semifinals. Like, it'd be crazy if Franz and Germany were in it. I would.
Do you have Greek face paint? You're going to get all
no face paint. I won't have that much time, honestly, because I think I get into Berlin at like 2 p.m. local time. So, and then the first semifinal game starts at like 5:15. I'll have a Giannis jersey or something, but at minimum. But nice, if Franz and Germany make it to the semifinal, I'm bringing my laptop and my podcasting stuff, and I'm podcasting after that for sure. But hopefully, Greece is in the semifinal. That'd be freaking amazing. But it'll be the first time I'll be at a Eurobasket, and it's part of like a grander, like Germany, like Austria, Czech Republic type 9-day trip, because I'm a crazy person when it comes to packing stuff in a short amount of time. But I always have a great time, and it always works out for me. And for people that aren't obviously going to Eurobasket and Oktoberfest and stuff like that,
they'll live through you.
They'll live through me. But also you can watch all the games. They're all available on ESPN Plus, or if you stream them illegally, you'll do that anyway, by any means anyway. So, but all the games are going to be on ESPN Plus.
That's awesome. Well, Adam, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. listeners of this podcast, if you're not listening to the Penny and Pop podcast, make sure you check it out. We'll have it in our show notes below. So yeah, again, thanks again, Adam. Appreciate it. Listeners, handful more weeks. We got FIBA basketball ramping up even more next week. And then, a little bit later in September, things get a little bit more real here in Orlando. So till then, let's go Magic. Peace.